Once upon a time, a girl named Alice sat by a river with her sister. She was bored and wanted something fun to do. Suddenly, she saw a white rabbit wearing a jacket and holding a pocket watch. The rabbit looked very worried. "I'm late. I'm late," he said. Alice was curious. Where is he going? She thought. Without thinking, she followed the rabbit. She wanted to see what he was up to. Alice ran after the rabbit, and soon she fell into a deep rabbit hole. As Alice fell down the rabbit hole, she wondered how far she would go. The fall seemed to take a long time, but she wasn't scared. She looked around and saw many things as she fell: jars of jam, books, and pictures. Finally, she landed softly on a pile of leaves. Alice stood up and brushed herself off. She looked around and saw a beautiful garden. "This place is amazing," she exclaimed. Alice was excited to explore this new and strange world. In the garden, Alice saw colorful flowers and talking animals. She met a friendly caterpillar sitting on a mushroom. The caterpillar was smoking a hookah and looked at Alice with big eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. Alice replied, "I'm Alice. I just fell down a rabbit hole." The caterpillar smiled and said, "You can change your size by eating these mushrooms. One side makes you grow, and the other makes you shrink." Alice was curious and wanted to try. As Alice walked through the garden, she met a smiling cat sitting on a tree branch. "Hello, Alice," said the cat. "Where are you going?" Alice replied, "I'm looking for a white rabbit." "Have you seen him?" The cat smiled wider and said, "If you keep going, you will find many interesting things. But remember, everyone here is a little crazy." Alice laughed and said, "I like crazy things. I want to see everything." The cat pointed her in the right direction. Alice continued her adventure and came across a tea party. At the table sat the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and the Sleepy Dormouse. They invited her to join them. "Welcome, Alice. Have some tea," said the Hatter. Alice sat down, curious about the strange party. They all talked and laughed, but nothing made sense. "Why is a raven like a writing desk?" the Hatter asked. Alice was confused but enjoyed the fun. She realized that in Wonderland, nothing was normal. After a while, Alice stood up and said, "I have to keep looking for the rabbit." The Mad Hatter and the March Hare waved goodbye. As she walked away, she thought about all the strange things she had seen. Suddenly, she heard a loud noise. Alice turned around to find the Queen of Hearts playing croquet with her cards. The Queen was shouting, "Off with their heads!" Alice was shocked and thought, "I don't want to meet her." Alice tried to sneak away, but the Queen spotted her. "Who are you?" the Queen shouted. Alice took a deep breath and said, "I'm Alice. I just came here to have fun." The Queen frowned but waved her hand. "You can stay, but don't get in my way." Alice felt nervous but decided to stay. She watched the strange game of croquet played with flamingos as mallets and hedgehogs as balls. It was chaotic and silly, but Alice couldn't help but laugh. During the game, Alice met many more characters. There were the cards, the Cheshire Cat, and even the Mad Tea Party guests. Everyone was a bit crazy, but Alice was starting to like it. "This place is wonderful," she thought. But soon, the Queen got angry again. "You're not playing right," she yelled. Alice was worried. What should I do? She wondered. Just then, she remembered her own strength. "I will not be afraid," she decided. Alice stood up to the Queen. "You can't just shout at everyone," she said. The Queen looked surprised. "How dare you speak to me like that?" she shouted. But Alice felt brave. I may be small, but I have a voice, she replied. The other characters cheered. They were tired of the Queen's anger. Alice is right, they shouted. The Queen was furious, but Alice stood her ground. She had found her courage in Wonderland. As Alice stood tall, rising, the Queen realized she could no longer control her. Alice felt a strange power growing inside her. The Queen shouted, I don't have to be afraid, you shouldn't be so bold. Thought. But Alice replied, she started to grow taller again. The what Queen matters is scared. My heart. What is happening? Queen looked shocked and angry. You can't do this. She was used to being in control, but Alice's bravery changed everything. I can be characters around them began to see their own power too. The other characters inspired by Alice's courage. Alice felt strong and powerful, continued to grow, ready to not take control of her adventure, but in confidence. She saw the beauty in Wonderland and felt a sense of belonging. This is my adventure, she declared. I will not let anyone take that away from me. The Queen tried to shout again, but Alice wouldn't listen. The characters started to stand beside her, united against the Queen's anger. They realized they could make their own choices and create their own happiness. With the Queen growing smaller, Alice turned to her friends. We can make our own rules in Wonderland, she said. The characters cheered, feeling empowered. They began to dance and sing, celebrating their newfound freedom. The Queen watched in disbelief, realizing she had lost control. Alice felt joy as she danced with her friends. Wonderland was no longer just a strange place, it was a place where everyone could be themselves and be happy. As the celebration continued, Alice felt grateful for her adventure. I learned that being brave and true to myself is important, she thought. The characters around her agreed. Thank you, Alice, they shouted. You showed us the way. Alice smiled and felt a warmth in her heart. Wonderland was filled with strange and wonderful things, but the best part was the friends she had made along the way. After a joyful time, Alice realized it was time to go home. She looked around at her friends and said, I will miss you all. The characters smiled and waved. You can always return, Alice. Wonderland will be waiting for you, said the Cheshire Cat. With a heavy heart, Alice waved goodbye and promised to return. She knew she would carry the lessons of Wonderland with her, and she felt happy and brave. As Alice walked back through the garden, she saw the rabbit again. I'm glad to see you, she said. The rabbit smiled and said, Thank you for your bravery, Alice. He led her back to the rabbit hole. Alice felt excited about going home but sad to leave her friends. I will tell everyone about my adventure, she promised. The rabbit nodded, knowing Alice would share her story and inspire others. Alice reached the rabbit hole and took a deep breath. Goodbye, Wonderland, she shouted. She jumped into the hole and began to fall again. This time, she was happy and excited. She thought about all the strange and wonderful things she had seen and learned. I can be brave and true to myself, she thought. As she fell, she felt a sense of joy and peace. She knew her adventure wasn't over, it was just the beginning.